Hi folks! Today's video is about self-reliance, and I think it's a great time to talk about it since a lot of us are stuck at home because of the coronavirus. Now I know a lot of you have gone to the grocery stores lately and have been making comments about the bare shelves, lack of toilet paper, and in particular showing really empty fresh produce shelves. So I thought it would be great to talk about how to grow your own food, even if you've never done it before or if you have very little space. So let's talk about space first. Even if you live in an apartment or a condo or a townhouse with a very small yard, I think that there are some really creative things that you can do to use the space around you. First, you can try to grow in a little greenhouse or in a sunny window, in an indoor greenhouse, I mean. But I don't really recommend those. You're not going to get as big of a crop. You can only grow small things. It's not really the best way to grow, in my opinion. If you live in a community where they have big open spaces that they're just currently mowing, you may want to get together with your neighbors and ask if you can use that space to make community garden plots. If the land isn't being used for a field or something else, utilities, something like that, it would be a really great way to use the space. You already pay for it with your HOA dues, or when you pay rent, it's part of that rental agreement. So talk to your management company or the HOA and see if you might be able to use some of that open space to make community gardens. Now, I would encourage you to make sure that there's an adequate fence around all the gardens and make sure that each person gets an equitable share of space. And I would advise putting them in raised beds so that everybody can have an opportunity to grow in a defined space. A lot of them even offer little sheds for shared tools, and they usually provide some sort of a water source. However, that may have to happen. And it could be a temporary thing right now, or you may want to look into it for a more permanent option. And this could be for folks who live in apartments or condos where they don't have any yard space, or even townhouses where you have very minimal yard space. I think this is a great way to go. The second option would be to communicate with your town or city or county and ask if you can use some of that open parkland that may just currently be being mowed and isn't being used for fields. You may be able to use some of that space as well. I know the community that I live near, they provide community gardens for folks, and they sign up in January for their community garden plot. They pay, I don't know how much it is, it's less than $100 to have it for the whole season. They do provide a small garden shed for tools that everyone can share, and then they also provide a water source for everyone. Those plots are about 1,250 square feet, which 1,000 square feet is a lot, but 1,250 is huge. You would be able to grow a substantial number of groceries for that in that space. So really consider those options for yourself. And if you have your own garden space, well, you can get to it. You can grow whatever you want as long as you have the space. So today I wanted to really talk about what are the easiest things to grow, particularly for the folks who are watching who may not have ever grown anything before, but maybe want to get started. I'm going to give you a list of things that are the easiest to grow because you can sow them outdoors. You don't have to start them inside. I find it difficult to start plants inside. I often get them to, damping off, or I underwater or overwater. I think it's much easier for me to control that when I can sow them outside directly into the soil. So what I did was I prepared a little chart here of all the ones that I thought would be easy to grow and will grow pretty quickly and will give you a crop in a season. A lot of the fruits that most people want to grow, like figs and blueberries and raspberries and things, they take at least 1 or 2 years to get established. So you're really not going to get a great crop out of them the first year at least. with these, you'll get something in the first year, and a couple of them are perennials, so you'll get something year after year. So the first thing on my list is a bush bean, and I like bush beans over pole beans because the pole beans need space to grow aerially. You have to put them on poles so that they can grow up. Bush beans are a lot shorter, and you don't have to put them on a pole, or anything to grow up. You will need to have more plants if you do bush beans because you're just not going to have the surface area, so you won't have as many bean plants or bean pods coming off of it necessarily, but you can always plant more bush beans. Another one is carrot. Those are really easy to grow. Cucumber, ground cherry, hear me out, I promise it's worth it. Radishes, rhubarb, spinach, strawberry, summer squash, winter squash, Swiss chard, and I didn't put it on here, but pumpkin is also really great to grow. Now, what I did was I took each one and I looked at the package, and I just picked some of these up from the big box store. And then on the back, it tells you all kinds of great information. It tells you the days to germination, how deep you should plant it. The days to harvest is the most important thing. So this says days to harvest 85, and this is a winter squash. So that's a pretty long time, so you need to plant that early, but you can succession plant. So if you look down here, I have winter squash, and I have it 3 times that I'm going to plant it. So I'm going to stagger it so that I'll have a crop at the end of the season where I'm picking for several weeks that particular crop. So that's one great way to extend your produce. Some things are not going to live during the summer, and some things are not going to start doing anything until summer. So one of the things to remember is in the spring, you want to plant things like spinach and lettuce and radishes. Those do really great in the spring, and radishes are so super easy and they grow really fast. You're going to get your crop within 25 days or so, depending on the radish species. So, and you can interplant those with things if you want to. You could plant radishes, plant something else, and then plant more radishes, plant something else, but they tend to like it in the spring and fall. Things like bush beans and cucumbers and squashes and pumpkins tend to like to grow in the summer. So they really like the warmer temperatures. So just remember that, and also pay attention to the thing that says, plant after frost, or this one doesn't mind a little bit of frost. So those things are also important to keep in mind. And I got some of these from the big box store. I actually bought some of these from Lowe's, which was really great. I don't normally buy my seeds from the big box store, but they had some really good ones and they were organic. I usually buy my stuff actually from catalogs or online, and one of my favorite sources is Territorial Seed Company. Another one is Baker Creek. They have really great stuff, and the reason I like them is because they offer heirlooms. And what the cool thing about heirlooms is that they are true to seed. So if I save seeds at the end of this year, next year when I plant them, they're going to be the same thing that I had the year before. If I have a hybrid, it's not probably going to be true to seed. And if I save the seeds at the end of this year and I have, some hybrid number 452 or something like that, it's unlikely to be the same thing the next year. And it's just the genetics of it and how it works. An heirloom, you're going to have a little bit more variety. However, it will be true to seed. So that's one of the great things about growing heirlooms. And I also like buying organic. So a lot of the heirlooms are going to be organic naturally. So another one is Burgess. And then I get Gurneys. I get a ton of seed catalogs and plant catalogs every spring. They start, in January and February, and they just keep sending them. And I order some things. This year, this is from Baker Creek. This is a particular strawberry that I'm actually going to take to Alaska with me and plant it up there because it's appropriate for up there. And here's my rhubarb that I'll be taking up there as well. This is a Victorian rhubarb. Rhubarb grows really well in Alaska, but it can grow really well here too. So a lot of the things that I just told you about, I just gave you basic carrot, rhubarb. There's so many varieties that you can pick from, and there are even heirloom varieties that you can pick from, so keep that in mind. And I really encourage you to be as food self-sufficient as you can, even if you can't grow all your food. If you can grow some of it, that's great. You took a step in the right direction, and all of these are fairly easy to grow and easy to care for. So don't feel like if you make a mistake, it's not that big a deal. I kill plants all the time, and I say to people, you know what, I make mistakes so you don't have to, so I can share that information with you. But I really want you to take a step toward it. And if you can't grow all your food, you know what, you can also forage. And I will be coming out with foraging videos later on, and it'll be foolproof things that are going to be super easy to identify. I would never, lead you astray and try to get you to go out and find some obscure mushroom or some obscure berry that's going to be very difficult to tell apart from a poisonous one. I would never try to do that to you. I'm only going to pick things that are really easy to identify. So keep that in mind. We'll talk about that in future videos. But for now, I hope that you'll be able to go out and either go to the big box store and pick up some seeds or pick from a catalog and come up with your own little I did this on graph paper. You can do it on your computer, however you want. But there's so many great things that you can grow that don't require a lot of effort or even a lot of space. If you don't have a ton of space, even if you can grow your herbs in pots, you're doing something great. So I encourage you to start a garden this year, and I'll catch you outside.